James here from LAGFX. This is a new series that we are starting here on our YouTube channel, and it's called Trading Talks. And it's basically going to be a series where we bring on special guests and we talk about their journeys and what they specialize in specifically. So we obviously aim to get on crypto traders, people in the NFT world, other forex traders, people who specify in stocks and shares, things like that. So yeah, I think it's only best and it's only right to start the first episode off with just me and James talking about our journey and our experience within Forex before we came about creating LAGFX as a fully fledged business. So I think it's only right that I start first. So my journey started when I was about 17. I remember watching The Wolf of Wall Street and being mesmerized by what I was watching, seeing Leonardo DiCaprio having yachts, cars, all the materialistic things you can imagine, and the attention he had, and yeah, just everything about what he was doing, really. The respect he had with his colleagues, the power he had, everything. And I think for me, that really gave me the drive, and it was kind of like the light bulb moment. So then, obviously, I went on to do a load of research on stocks and shares. Quickly realized that it was really about investing in things longer term to see the reward. And for me, I was quite impatient and didn't really have my emotions in check, nor did I have the time or the effort to do the research behind the stocks and shares that I wanted to invest in. So I quickly swayed away from that. For me, it was more about I want to get rich and I want to get rich quickly. Um, so yeah, I feel like I kind of got pushed towards Forex. And at the time, on social media like Instagram, things were starting to pop off about Forex trading, and getting in these groups and teams and having these mentors show you the ropes and basically send out signals. So that's where my journey really started, from watching Leonardo DiCaprio on The Wolf of Wall Street, quickly being swayed into Forex after seeing the time and effort that it was going to take. And then, yeah, finding a team on Instagram. So there was a team on Instagram. I'm not going to name any names, but they have been crunched down by the FCA. So it goes to show that they obviously weren't, doing things above board and being legit. So yeah, going back to the start of my journey, I remember getting approached on Instagram DMs by a guy, and he basically said that he was part of this big team. Gave me his sales pitch and said, "Listen, I'll make you profits guaranteed every single week. Join our team today." What did I do? I was gullible, jumped straight on board. I was just a young lad. Signed up with their broker, made my minimum deposit, which I think was about 350 quid, and then I was away. And I remember the very first trade I placed, and this is no lie, I remember the very first trade I placed was from a signal that they had sent out. And I remember they didn't even tell me how to adjust my lot size. They didn't even touch on risk management. So they sent out this sell, I think it was a sell position, on one of the major pairs, and I literally just pressed sell after putting my stop loss and take profit, and didn't even adjust the lot size. And if you remember correctly, when you started placing trades on your phone, when you load up MetaTrader 4 or MetaTrader 5, it automatically has a 1.00 lot size, and you have to adjust that, you have to change that. And like I said, I only had £350 in my account, and this was at the time where you could have, a 1 to 400 leverage. So I pressed sell on it, sent him a screenshot. I was like, is everything looking all right? Does it look okay? And he was like, no, you need to close that trade straight away. I basically put on the trade with a one lot size with a £350 account. So yeah, that was how that went. So that was obviously the first red flag for me. I was like, are these not things that you should go over with someone before they even go to place a trade? So for me, I was already a bit skeptical at this point. And then moving forward, they did continue to produce signals throughout the day and throughout the rest of the week. And I remember coming out on top at the end of the week and thinking, oh my God, I found the next best thing. Going around telling all my friends about it. From then, everything kind of went downhill. We were either breaking even every single week or we were down. Now, when you're breaking even, you're winning trades and you're losing trades, your equity is not really changing. But because you are winning those trades and you are losing those trades, it kind of, I don't know, it kind of began to feel like more of a game to me and more of a gamble. And when I would lose a trade, as soon as they put out another signal, I was jumping straight on it because I wanted to gain back from that. Or, if I put a trade on that they had sent out and it profited, again, I wanted to jump on the next one straight away because I just profited, you know what I mean? So straight away, I wasn't looking at Forex in the right way, as like an investment and something that takes time and effort to actually learn and prosper from. Jumping ahead a few months, I think it took maybe 2 or 3 months for me to blow my account. And that was down to being misled from this trading group, but also not being shown how to do things properly. And then also impulsively trading on my own accord. I thought I was the best trader in the world after just a few weeks of seeing what they were doing. So straight away, I shot myself in the foot. And once I blew my account, obviously I wanted to jump straight back onto things. I kind of became addicted to trading. I wanted to jump straight back onto things. So I redeposited with a larger amount of funds. I think the second time was about 500 quid, and then went again. Within weeks, months, I lost all of my equity, blew my account for the second time, and that was when I kind of flipped and was like, do you know what? And this is a load of shit. Da 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 da. I was slating the people that I was in this trading group with. I was calling them every name under the sun, and anger really built up. But I still wasn't over the fact that I wanted to be Leonardo DiCaprio and I wanted to live the life he was living. You know what I mean? So that was a real turning point for me. Obviously, going through that process of being really angry with the team that I was working with, but still having the passion and drive to succeed in Forex was a real turning point, because I then decided to not rely on other people for my success in this industry. I went on to watch endless amounts of videos on YouTube, Adam Coe being one of the main people I watched, and then looking at other entrepreneurs and just really seeing how they did things and how their mindset was. Because with anything that you do that's buying and selling and investing and in this type of industry, entrepreneurship, you have to really change in every single way. And that goes without saying, mindset is probably one of the biggest things that you have to change. So for me, it was just about ramming as much research in as possible and actually learning how to do things properly. My main focus was, I want to know how to read the markets and I want to know how to buy and sell and when to buy and sell. So for me, it was just watching Adam Coe 24/7. He has hour-long webinars on YouTube about support and resistance lines and reversal points, candlestick formations, things like that. So for me, it was just constantly watching those things, and then from there, my trading experience started to develop. I was using a demo account, and I started to place my own trades, and I started to see some kind of consistency. So what I did was slowly swayed back into using a real account with real funds, and kind of dabbled in both my demo and both my real account. I felt like it was a way of really trying to master my emotions and tricking myself into thinking that I was never using real funds, even though I was. And then, yeah, I mean, as time went on and I became more confident, I started seeing some kind of consistency, but my risk management still wasn't there. My RR, risk to reward, things like that wasn't really in place. And I mean, it wasn't until about 18 months down the line where I really had a set trading strategy and plan in place, that being making sure to only risk 2%, making sure that my RR is at least 2 to 1, making sure that I am trading with the trend and not against it, making sure I've got as much confluence and confirmation as possible before placing a trade, making sure that there is no fundamental news that's going to affect my trades. These are things that you need to have in place before you place a trade. And it wasn't until, like I said, 18 months down the line where I actually had those things in place and I had a little tick list. And then, yeah, that's where the shift really then changed. I went from doing this as a hobby and a way of making an extra income to it then changing to a primary income and leaving my job. So through that transition of doing this as a hobby to doing it full time, I was actually working for an autistic company who looked after, young autistic lads and girls and people of disabilities. I actually loved that job. And at the end of every shift, I felt like I had achieved something. I had actually made someone's day and I had actually done some good in the world. So it was very rewarding in that sense. But yeah, I kind of took the leap and just decided to call it a day with that and take this forex stuff seriously and do it full time. Now it was a scary leap to say the least because I went from having a reliable source of income and a guaranteed source of income every single week or every single month to then it all being on my terms and the way I perform in the forex markets. So it was scary, but it was definitely worth it. Now looking back, yeah, fast forward maybe another year, 2 years, things have been going great. I've compounded my account. I've then gone and withdrawn a load of money and spent it on myself and traveling and doing other things. And then obviously by doing these things and spending the money I was spending and having the free time that I had, it was obviously drawing attention and my friends were asking questions on, where I'm getting the money from. So it was a case of explaining to them exactly what I was doing again and really drilling it into their heads like, this is a real thing and you can make some real good money from this. Yeah, I mean, heads started to turn and before I knew it, more and more people wanted to learn more about it. So I kind of took another leap in my career and decided to start a business where I showed other people how to trade. Now it wasn't a case of providing signals and and trades every day like the team and group that I originally started with was, but more of a case of showing people how to do this properly. Now, that's just because I didn't want people to fall into the same trap that I did, which was a pyramid scheme, basically, a way of other people making commission off the back of your stupidity and gullibleness, basically. So, yeah, that's kind of how LAGFX then started. I wanted to give people a platform and a place where they could actually learn to work and trade the foreign exchange markets to an adequate level and make this their main source of income. So moving forward with LAGFX, I've always stuck by giving people the right attention and the right information, but also some level of education within this field because it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's something that takes time and dedication, and it's a lifestyle basically. So yeah, I mean, I've blabbered on a little bit there, but that's my journey and that's how I started within Forex. And I know this is a podcast and I've kind of just taken over the mic. So I'm going to hand it over to James now and he's going to give you a brief on how he started his Forex journey.
So my journey, it's nowhere near as long as Luke's. It's not going to be as exciting, unfortunately, but I'll start at the beginning. So as of today's current date, we're talking about just over a year ago now, about 13 months. And it all started with me actually meeting Luke at first. So beforehand, I didn't really know anything about Forex markets, about the stock market. Obviously, you know it exists, But other than that, you have absolutely no idea what it is that people are making money from it. So as Luke said in his section, the main thing was just seeing his social media, seeing that he'd done all this traveling across the world, seeing that he was blessed with being able to work from home, be his own boss, go off his own schedule. To me, straight away, that was just so appealing. I know from a younger age, I've always wanted to deviate away from your typical go to college, go to university, get into your 9 to 5 job, continue with that for the rest of your life. Nothing against people that do that, but for me personally, it just wasn't the one. I always wanted to try and find a path out, to stray away and find my own thing. So this in itself was definitely a great opportunity. So as I said, about 13 months ago, me and Luke met, just through a mutual friend. That's how we actually met. And within the first few times of seeing each other, as I said, I was curious. I sort of asked a few questions. He would tell me the odd couple things, but of course, it's very hard because as he was so knowledgeable at the time, as I'm realizing now, it's very hard at first to portray what the forex markets are to somebody completely new. Luckily, he had been running LAGFOREX for a few months then, so he was experienced in this and knew exactly what to tell me, exactly what path to set me on right at the start. Otherwise, I would not be where I am today. So thankfully, he knew what he was doing. He knew what to tell me, as he said, from his past experiences being with those teams. He knew what it was I needed to learn to get off on the right foot and go from there. So the first thing that really got me into it, of course, he told me all of this, but it wasn't until about a month later after we had this conversation that I actually kickstarted anything. So I got into his group chats. So I got into the client group chat as well as the learning lounge. And from here, I was rammed with educational content, plenty of knowledge, and some signals day to day. So I started off, I deposited a bit of my savings. So I think I put about 1,000 in to start with. And my very, very first day of following the signals, it was the very first day of November. So funnily enough, that is about a year exactly from today. Very first trades were placed and it was on gold. So the gold market at this point, if you go back in the chart, you'll probably see the very start of November last year, it bled out massively. So I remember I was really busy that week. I can't remember, I must have been at work all week. And I remember waking up and heading off somewhere, obviously to work it must have been, and I was just spammed by messages from him. I can't remember if it was a group chat or from him personally, but it was like, get yourselves on gold right now. And even back then, my lot size was absolutely minuscule. Thankfully, Luke taught me how to calculate and use a proper lot size, so I wasn't over leveraging, although it would have given me vast profits at the time. Thankfully, I made sure not to risk stupid amounts. So yeah, this first day probably made over 100 on the first day, and then of course the gold bleed out I'm sure continued for like a week. So throughout then I was trying to catch more moves, as well as Luke as well. He was trying to find sell opportunities for the clients. So remember my entire first week basically just being shorts on gold and making a decent bit back. So similar to what Luke was saying when he had that first good week, it's just a massive misconception. I mean, it was brilliant, of course, to make those profits, but straight away then it's like, holy shit, I've hit the jackpot here. This is easy money. All I'm doing is copying something from my phone, and it's £100, £200 in a week within £1,000 account. So straight away, once I realised that if I was to put more in, that could have been 400, 500. So I fell into the trap where I wanted quick money, quick, easy money, as I think everybody does. So instantly deposited more. And of course, as I'm depositing more, now when I'm risking 2%, that 2% equals more. And I just wouldn't advise anybody starting out to just throw your savings in there and just think that, oh, I've got £5 to spare, let's just throw it in. So what? I think you need to really accustom to the monetary value first. Although I always say to people, get used to percentages, I think at first you need to realize that if you're not educated enough, don't be risking £100 per trade. Even if that's 2% of your account, keep it really, really small. And then once you see those consistent profits, then start to risk a decent amount. Anyway, getting sidetracked. That was my first week, all the shots on gold. I continued for that month, following the signals. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't crazy into it. I wasn't spending all my spare time trying to learn about Forex and following Luke's advice closely, I was still in my old lifestyle. I was still going out seeing friends, gaming, working, whatever the hell I was doing. So by no way had Forex actually manifested within me, or the idea of taking it on fully manifested. So it was still just one of those things on the side. And I think when it got to December, that's when I sort of made the decision to look a bit further into it. So I know Luke, he linked me a lot of Adam Coe stuff himself, sent me a lot of educational content, and just told me to stick my head down, crack on with it. And I think within that month of December, I obviously showed to him that I was ready to give it a go. Really, I was ready to try and learn and give it a good go. Try and learn from what he's showing me and begin my journey, quite simply. So when it got to the 1st of January, so this is after that month of December, after all the learning, this is where Luke sort of proposed the idea to me of working alongside him, of helping him with the LAGFOREX brand. Of course, this was a brilliant opportunity for me, so by no means was I ever thinking about turning it down. Straight away, I thought, this is brilliant. This is really going to help me propel forward. And at this point, of course, we were still in lockdown, so I was at home all the time anyways. I had nothing else to do. Why not spend that time wisely? So yeah, the best thing about this was that Luke's idea was basically almost like an internship, an apprenticeship, where he got me on board, he invested in me, and he said, look, I'm going to give you everything you need to know to learn. I'm going to bring you in calls, I'm going to give you all the information you could possibly need, and we're going to spend some time together, and I'm going to establish you as a trader. So for however long it was, I'm sure there was a good few months there of intense learning. And the best thing that people don't really realize about trading is the analysis of a market is pretty easy. You can grasp that quite simply. You're following a set strategy or some set parameters that once they sink in, you're fine. But it's things such as risk management, consistency, psychology, that's the stuff that nobody really teaches. But thankfully, I had Luke there. He taught me about all these things. So I started off right. I had every single tool under my belt that I needed, and I managed to really propel forward. And to be honest, my journey went pretty fast. I started to become profitable fairly fast. Don't get me wrong. Within those couple months of learning, there were times where I'd go off, place my own trades on my account. Of course, there was many losses throughout there, but I never blew it. Never got close to blowing it. I think the most I was ever down was maybe 10%, 10 to 15% around that region. That was the most I was ever down. Thankfully, never blew the account, but I pretty much got to dedicate that to Luke having this sort of mentor role upon me. So making sure that I didn't make the mistakes that he did at the start. And I think if it wasn't for that, my journey wouldn't have been as successful as it is.
So now that we've heard James's backstory, as well as mine, I think just to end the video off, we are going to ask each other a few questions about Forex, and really get a deeper understanding on our views and our insights into this industry. So the first question I've got for you, James, is what do you think are the qualities that make a good Forex trader?
That's a great question. So, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind straight away is I think you've got to deviate away from the fact of specializing this as a forex trader. It's how to be successful at anything. I think these qualities, if you're going to be successful at anything, you have to have these qualities. And forex is just one of those things that you can manifest those qualities into. So the first thing is just motivation, the big one. So as we did, we both took time out of our lives to learn. And even now, we take a lot of time out of our lives. We miss a lot of social opportunities for business ventures and stuff like that. So I think the first thing is motivation in terms of being willing and able to put the work in that's necessary to make it.
Yeah.
Because we can provide so much to you, but if you're not going to go off on your own back and take the proper routes to learn that, like reading it's one thing, but actually manifesting that knowledge and building upon it is another thing. So I say to anybody that if you want to get into this, strap in, because it is going to be a roller coaster ride, and you are going to have to persevere through some tough times. Even when you've got mentors, there is still going to be tough times. So have the
Mm.
motivation. You know,
Yeah.
instill that motivation in you, however that may be. If you have to wake up and listen to some motivational quotes, however be it. Some people might go for a walk, go for a run in the morning, get those happy emotions running in the mind, those hormones released, and just go for it. Find what
Yeah.
works for you. Maybe there's a routine that can help you with this. Either way, I think motivation is a big one.
Yeah, I think on top of that, just to add, I think determination as well. Determination definitely falls into that factor. I think you have to be determined to like you said, there are going to be hard times. So you've got to really have that determination to carry on when you do come across those setbacks. So yeah, no, that's great. Anything else?
Yeah, I think the other thing really is patience is a massive one. So obviously we've touched on determination, motivation. That's more in like the learning part and the startup. But once you get into it, I know especially for me, like when you learn, it's like, right, let's do this. Let's get straight into it. Let's get those profits going. Let's prove to myself that I'm a brilliant trader. But it's not like that. It's very much a long game. Not only do we need to have patience in terms of compounding the account, maybe some people out there may only start with a £1,000 account, and for the first year, your profits may be minuscule. Looking at it from a monetary value, you may have great percentage returns, but that's still only maybe, let's say, double the account in a year. That's still only 1,000 in that year, which doesn't seem overly enticing. But get away from looking at it like that and say, wow, I've doubled my account. If you were to do that every single year, exponentially, that account's going to grow massively. And within a decade,
Mm.
you're more than likely going to be a millionaire. So have the patience, know that we're in this for the long game. And once you do, it just makes life a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think that falls into having a set strategy and plan in place, doesn't it? And being strict on yourself. If you can really focus on the end goal, which is to be trading with six, seven figures, then you just need to stick to it basically. So it's all about compounding, isn't it? And having a set trading strategy and plan in place. Risking 2%, and having these parameters in place, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I always see this thing that pops up on my Instagram all the time, and it's about this Chinese trader who, I'm sure you've seen it yourself. It says that from his basement, he turned, I think, the equivalent of $10,000 into 10 million over the course of 10 years. And he didn't have, he didn't go and work for some massive firm. He didn't go and get funded by a special, the prop firms or whatever they are now. He did that all by himself through compounding, through putting the
Mm.
time in, compounding those profits, and 10 years down the line, he's on seven figures, eight figures.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's it. That's it. So yeah, I mean, determination, motivation, um, patience, a good trading strategy and plan in place. So there's obviously three emotions. So we could say that being able to control your emotions effectively is obviously important. A set trading strategy and plan in place. Um, I mean, would you say there's anything else?
I think this is one of those things that once you go down a hole, it's endless. Like the things that we've
Mm.
touched on are literally a tiny percentage of so many factors that go into it. Being
Yeah.
successful at anything, it takes things every day. It's going to be a test every day. Every minute, there's going to be a test. So I couldn't simply touch on enough things that you're going to have to possess to get through this. But I think the main things, as we said, were determination, motivation, and controlling your emotions.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you there, James. I think you quite rightly said it could quite easily spiral into many different things that make a profitable, successful trader. So moving on to the next question, what was the riskiest trading decision you have ever made, and what happened?
It's a good one again. I think the first thing again that pops to mind that I just want to throw out the first thing that pops into my head. This has definitely got to be when I made that jump to quit my job, my part-time job, to just dive into this full time. And by no means was this a impulsive or irrational decision. This was an idea that I had manifested for a very long time. There was many factors that went into it. Don't get me wrong. One of them being the dislike of the job, that was probably one of the main driving factors. But I knew I couldn't let that alone be the reason why I would take a leap. It had to be an educated decision. So for probably about 2 or 3 months, it was something that I was thinking about, and I was trying to find reasons to make it a valid decision. So I just spent, I guess, once this idea was manifested, it gave me a new lease of life. It gave me this level of motivation where I spent all my time learning. So we haven't touched on this, but there is a period where I actually deviated away from Luke's strategy, or the strategy that Luke taught me, to move on to this smart money concept, the institutional approach. So there's a span within there. I won't spiral down that route, but it was just before I quit my job that I got into this, and I said to myself, look, before I can justify this, I have got to put every single ounce of effort I have into this. So every single day I was learning. I have a notebook full of files where I was just writing down, copying off different websites, different videos, joining seminars where I could. And I really proved to myself that I could do this, because within a fairly small space of time, within a few months, I was very confident in the knowledge. It was then just implementing it into the market. And after I did that and saw some success, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do this. I'm going to take the leap. Having that extra time is just going to go such a long way for the business and for my own personal journey. So I saw it as a wise decision. It's definitely paid off to this day. It's given me a lot of spare time, because when I was working, it was a case of like fitting in trading and stuff for the business everywhere around that. I was never getting free time. I never had a single day off. I never had a spare few hours here and there, and it was draining. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to take the leap. Very, very risky decision. But yeah, I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, no, no. I think mine is probably the same. To be honest with you, taking that leap from doing it part time and it being a hobby, a source of a secondary income to really making it a primary income and putting my all into it. So yeah, no, I 100% agree. I don't think there's anything else I can really add to that question. To be fair.
The last thing, just to round it off, it's just the fact that, as I said coming into it, nobody knows what it is. So when you say to people that you're going off to do this, it's a massive grey area. Was it the same for you? Was it a case of like, when you say to people what you're doing, or what you're going to do, everybody's a bit like, well, what's that? Like, how are you actually making a living? And then when you explain it, they're instantly like, oh, so you're a millionaire. It's like, no, it
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
quite work
definitely.
like that.
Yeah.
There's so many misconceptions with it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's not a case of people like asking. I mean, like my boys, like my close friends, they'll ask
Yeah.
like, how's work been? Like how's
Mm.
things going? Do you know what I mean? But for the most part, like a lot of people are asking like, how much have you made today?
Yeah,
Do you know what
that's
I mean?
all it
Like,
is. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like, and I think, like you said, it's kind of, it doesn't really get annoying by any means, but it's more
It's
like
it's quite
there's more
personal.
to
It's
it
like,
than just yeah, yeah,
they
yeah. It's
feel
like,
like just because you're doing this thing, they can ask you that, and it's like, if the roles were reversed and I just came up to you and just said, "Oh, what's your salary for this job?" It's like, that's a bit personal.
I
So
know, yeah,
it always has
you'd be a
me in a
bit
bit of
taken
two
back.
minds. Yeah. So now, Luke, I'm going to ask you a few questions. I'm going to reveal some of the deep, dark secrets you've been hiding. Um, so one of the questions I do actually have. So in your story, you mentioned that after you made a fair bit of money, after you quit your
Mm.
job, you went into it full time. You say that you withdrew some money, you went traveling, bought things and whatnot. Do you regret taking this money out? Was it a fair bit that you took out? And do you regret doing that?
Straight up, yes, I do. I wish I was more patient. Again, that just goes into emotions, doesn't it? But yeah, I wish I was more patient and kind of gave myself more time to compound my account. I think it would have been okay if I was just withdrawing, small amounts. But the fact that I withdrew nearly 50% of my equity was a stupid decision to make. But it's happened and we move on from it. Why was it stupid? It was stupid because I kind of put myself back 50%, you know what I mean? So half of, the whole time of me grinding and grinding and grinding, I'd kind of set myself back 50% as such, you know what I mean? So it was a case of like, fuck, and now I'm back to this. I have to rebuild my account size back up, you know what I mean? So, quite simply, yes, I do regret it. I think if I was to do it all over again, and any advice I could give to anyone would be compound as much as possible. And when you do go to make a withdrawal and you do want to take out a lump sum, make sure that it's not a significant amount because it is going to massively set you back. It's like a snowball effect. You know what I mean? The more you compound, the higher your profits are going to be in return. The higher your account size is going to be. You know what I mean? So for me, yeah, I definitely regret it. But do you know what? I wouldn't say I regret it. It's a decision that I wish I hadn't made at the time. But what can you do? I have plenty of memories from it.
I was going to say though, although you say you regret taking it out for obvious reasons, but it's a case of like that must have been a brilliant year. I don't know how long that period was, but let's say it's a year. That must have been brilliant.
Yeah.
Traveling the world, that's what a lot of people have a dream for. And you spent
Yeah,
a
yeah.
year living your dream. Like you'd spent years working for it, and then you had a year to just say, you know what, I've earned this.
I know, yeah. No, no, I 100% agree. Yeah, I mean, I did go traveling. I went traveling quite a bit. Traveled all around Greece. Went on TV, did a few things. You know what I mean? Traveled all around Europe basically. Bought a lot of materialistic things, which isn't the be all and end all. And I think when you come to make money and you come to do this, I think you'll quickly realize later on in the line that those things really don't mean anything. And in the grand scheme of things, you would much now looking at it in an entrepreneur mindset, that £1,000 that you spent on a designer bag could have actually been used to help compound your account. You know what I mean? £1,000 is a lot of money. So, if you're just making 2% back on a trade, that's 20 quid. And I know it's not a significant amount, but it adds up. You know what I mean? So if you spend 10 grand on, I don't know, a new watch, a Rolex, you could have used that 10 grand to really compound your account. You know what I mean? So it does all add up. So before you go and buy all your designer things and you go out on the slash with your mates and you treat your mates to a night out and you get hotels and you do all these things, really think about your funds and how you can reinvest it.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to add to you saying you withdrew 50%, and I wanted to explain to people why that's so significant because as soon as you take
Mm.
50% out, to get back to that original figure, you now have to make 100% back. So from taking 50% out, you've got to make 100% back. So doubling your account is by no means an easy task. Um, this is something that could take months, if not up to a year. So after withdrawing 50% of your account, which will take 1 minute, you're then sacrificing potentially up to a year's worth of work and profit. So that's just the importance that compounding has, or the reverse of it, taking money away. So as you said, if you think, you know what, I've made a bit this week, let's just grab some of that out. We'll go and treat ourselves. We'll go and get some designer clothes. Like that's not that you've made £1,000 taking it out. It's the fact that you have set yourself back weeks or months. So think about it like that, and maybe you will be a lot more hesitant next time to anybody out there.
Yeah, and I mean, we're not trying to say be boring because it probably comes across that way. You know what I mean? How we're saying, if you want to do forex, it takes time and dedication. You have to commit your life to it. You know what I mean? And oh yeah, by the way, when you're making this money, you're not allowed to withdraw it. By no means are we saying don't do these things, but just like James said, be hesitant and have a second thought. You know what I mean? Because as it comes to the weekend, like does that night out really matter? Like, obviously, you're gonna go out for any lad. Lads spend hundreds of pounds on a night out. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, just kind of think, is it really worth the hangover and being down £200, or is there a way I can reinvest this and improve? You know what I mean? So yeah, we're not being boring, and we're not saying don't treat yourself because trust me, I've treated myself as is James, but just have a second thought about it. You know what I mean?
So to round this off nicely, a quick fire question. I want you to just respond with the first thing that comes to mind. What is one piece of advice you would give to a beginner?
Um, Understand the risk that trading has, and understand good risk management. So you will see a lot of people shout and scream about risk management and using good risk management, but really delve into that and understand what good risk management actually is. So ensuring that you're only risking a maximum 2-3% per trade, making sure that every single trade you place has a good risk to reward ratio, and then just have little things in place like leading stop losses or taking partials on a trade, making sure you're trading with the trend and not against it. Have these parameters in place, like I mentioned earlier on in the video. These are things that you need to have in place when trading. That's probably the best advice I can give.
Yeah, that's spot on, really. Risk management. It's probably the first thing I'd say to anybody coming into it as well. That is huge because so many things can go wrong when you first start out, but the main thing that is going to hit you hard is blowing an account, is blowing your savings. So risk management is that one thing out of everything that is going to prevent that from happening. Even if many other factors go wrong, if you have risk management in place, it is going to be extremely hard to blow an account. So I think that rounds the video off nicely. I appreciate Luke for asking me those questions that made me have a good think. And I think we've managed to provide a lot of great information, really. I think these questions have led us to give out a lot of knowledge, a lot of things that we want to get across to people that are listening to this channel, that are maybe in the learning lounge. However you're viewing this, a lot of this information, please take it on board and just make sure you really do listen to what we're saying. We're not trying to be boring, as Luke said. We're just trying to stress the importance of these factors because it's all things that we or other people have neglected and things we've learned from. So learn from your mistakes. So this was just a great way to start off this series. We have introduced our journeys so that moving on, when we interview other people, they can give their journeys. But you've started off, you know exactly where we've come from. So moving forward, it sets a nice baseline and you know exactly what we've done to get to where we are. So I appreciate everybody for taking the time to listen through and watch this. If you have any feedback, make sure you leave it in the comments. Let us know any guests that you think we should pick up. If there's anybody out there in the Forex industry, the stock market, crypto traders, if you guys yourself do this sort of stuff, leave it in the comments. We'll try and get back to you because we would love to feature some of you guys in these videos. Ask for a few questions. Make sure you check out in the description all the links we have. We've got our free Learning Lounge group chat, our website, plenty of other places where you can go, get free educational content because that is what we're all about, making sure you guys get it right. So thank you for watching. We hope you've enjoyed and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time when we're back on the podcast.